Hi, everyone. Today we spoke with Joel Chrisler, who is a director at Jumpstart. Jumpstart is a nonprofit that helps families educate themselves in financial literacy. Their mission is to focus on advancing financial literacy for teachers and students. It was a great chat. Jay, what do you want to share about it?
Yeah, if you're a homeschooling parent, Jumpstart provides a great resource because they have a clearinghouse that actually gives you guidance on all the different market opportunities for teaching financial literacy. And I think in this interview, he gives a lot of great information. I'd highly recommend if you prioritize teaching financial literacy and you feel like you're looking in a void, Jumpstart can give some great guidance. And hope you guys enjoy the interview. To start it, do you want to just give an introduction to Jumpstart and the mission that you guys have?
Sure. Yeah, Jumpstart is a nonprofit, and we partner with over 100 different businesses and organizations and resource creators. And our goal is to make financial literacy available to every American student that's out there. But we also want those resources to be available to parents. We want them to be available to teachers, to communities. And a lot of the resources that we put onto our website from our partners are free. And that's one I think of the unique things about financial literacy is a lot of, I think some of the best resources that are out there are actually free resources.
Yeah, definitely. So before we had that hiccup, I asked you a little background like on you and what
Yeah.
got you into being
Well,
in a profit.
yeah, I actually was a teacher for 33 years. And it was something that when I was growing up, I never saw myself doing anything other than teaching. And when I got a chance to get my first teaching job, I got to teach at my high school that I graduated from. And
Mhm.
they handed me a book and said, here's one of the classes you're going to teach because nobody wants to teach it. And it was a course called Consumer Economics. And so it was econ and personal finance kind of combined together. And I'd actually taken the class when I was in high school and I
Mhm.
didn't remember anything about it. And I thought, God, that's terrible. And so I needed to make this something that I thought would be impressionable, ever, lasting and would make an impact on my students. And so I decided when I looked at it that I was really given a very powerful gift, and that was to teach something that kids were going to be able to use immediately. And that's
Yeah,
I think, the dream of every teacher. And so I knew that this was going to have an impact. I'd also had a pretty interesting background. I grew up on a family farm. And when I was in high school, our farm actually went through a bankruptcy. And so I had to experience my parents dealing with that.
yeah.
Seeing your dad, who was a pretty tough individual, cry for the first time, telling you he hopes that you don't think he's a failure, that
Hmm.
left a pretty big impression on me. And so when I had a chance to share, this information with students and to hopefully make life better for them, it was something that I love to do. My path to Jumpstart is actually kind of interesting. Back in 2009, I attended the very first National Educator Conference that Jumpstart held, and I
Uh-huh.
got to meet the CEO. I got to meet the executive director of education. And over the years, when I would return to that conference, our friendship just grew and grew and grew. After COVID, they asked me if I would join with Dan Hebert, who runs the conference, and kind of help him organize and set things up. And so I was very happy to do that while I was still teaching. And after doing that for 3 years, they said, "Would you like to join us?" And they said, "Are you thinking at all about retiring?" And I had, passed surpassed the magical age of retirement for education, which is in Wisconsin is 55. I was 56 at the time. And I said, "Well, should I consider retiring?" And they said, "Well, if you do, we would really like to bring you on board as a staff member because we really want an educator in our organization." And so that's what took me to Jumpstart.
That's great. And that's pretty much you got to take the next level where you go from the one-on-one to now more one-on-many where you
Yeah.
can facilitate it. That is
Yeah.
great. And did you find when you were teaching, like sharing that story about like the tough times you faced, was that what really got kids to understand why it's so important now to
Yeah, yeah,
learn
I'm a huge believer in storytelling,
Mm.
and especially in something that's as relevant as this, Because if you can share personal stories and you can still hold your head high when you made mistakes, when you had successes, just different experiences that you've endured, the kids remember those.
Yeah.
I still have kids that will come up in my community and say, "Oh, I remember that story where, your ex-brother-in-law took a credit card out in your name. Boy, what, he was crazy. Why did he do that? How could he get away with it?" And they remember those things. So I
Yeah.
think it's pretty powerful.
I believe, especially with personal finance and finances in general, the only way or like the best way to learn is really through that like failure that you have. So then the second best way is explaining it so that everyone can see exactly what happened. Because when you look back and you can be like, oh, I see how I could have avoided it. But when you're in it, it's just you're
Exactly.
confused, you're lost,
Yeah.
and it gives a great perspective on that.
Yeah,
Uh,
I told my students, I said, I have made all the mistakes, so you don't have to. And I
yeah.
would say, you can thank me anytime.
Yeah. Okay, so we had a lady that we talked to and were connected with, and she tried, I don't know exactly what state she was in, but she would try to wrap up her curriculum a little early and then
Mhm.
start teaching finances and kind of get the kids understanding like some financial literacy. And
Right.
she was reprimanded for that. So I think Wisconsin is very well rounded in allowing there to be a specific
Mhm.
uh, curriculum and topic for it. But those other states, have you guys found a struggle in getting uh, schools willing to accept your curriculum and allow you to promote to parents what you guys are promoting?
Well, I think the big struggle comes in is just, where do you put it in
Yeah,
education? Because for the states now that have graduation requirements, there's 30 states in the United States that require a personal finance course, a semester course for graduation.
well,
Um,
that's great.
30 states have passed it. They're not completely into it yet. Like Wisconsin, for example, next year's freshmen, they will be the first class that will be required to take a course to graduate. And
Well,
so
that's
usually
awesome.
there's about a 3 or 4 year, once the legislation is passed, it's usually 3 or 4 years before it's actually officially enacted.
Hmm.
Um, but like I said, the struggle that places have is, where does this fit into our curriculum? Is it a business class? Is it a social studies class? Is it, should it just be standalone? For us, because we're so excited about the graduation requirements and so many states jumping on board with that, our next level is we want to empower elementary teachers to incorporate
Yeah.
it. And that's where
Okay.
it's even tougher because my oldest daughter is a fourth grade teacher. And when she first started teaching 5 years ago, and I was still in the classroom, and I said, you got to get financial education. She said, "Dad, I don't have time."
Hmm.
And so one of the things that I did to convince her was I had a program that I used in my classroom that we now do at Jumpstart, which is called the Teen Teach-In. And I would take my students into elementary classrooms. They would provide just a half hour, 45-minute financial literacy lesson. And
Hmm.
that was to get the kids excited, but it's also to get the teacher excited too. And as soon as the lesson was done, I heard those magic words that every dad wants to hear, which is, "Dad, you were right. I need to get financial education into my classroom." And she's done it. She's incorporated it into different facets of her curriculum, and it's part of her curriculum now.
That is great. So where is the most influence Jumpstart has? Would it be with the teachers, the parent, or the schools?
I think our big focus for a long time has been teachers, and which is
Okay.
why we do the National Educator Conference where we invite teachers. It's a scholarship event, so 350 teachers from around the United States will earn a scholarship to come to whatever location we were at. Last November, we were in Boston. The year before, we were in Louisville, Kentucky. The year before that, we were in Arizona. We do it in DC every once in a while too, which is our home base. But we've really kind of geared it towards making sure that teachers have all the resources. But what we're finding is that there's so many people that want these resources, and we have them from our partners. And so we want to make them available to everybody.
That's great. And do you have any teachers that say they get pushback from the school when they incorporate it, or is it?
Typically we don't, because again, they're not necessarily looking to overhaul or change. They're just looking to enhance their
Mhm.
curriculum. And so I think that that's one way that helps out a lot, is that as long as it's an enhancement, most places are open to it. One of the things that we are going to be doing, like I said, as we're expanding more, I think, into elementary classrooms and teachers, is that I'm going to be doing a little bit more outreach this spring with elementary principals
Mhm.
and encouraging them to look at our resources, encourage them to, to encourage their own teachers to
Yeah.
incorporate more financial literacy too.
No, that's great. It almost feels like you guys are for a while. It like the education lacked. Most people graduate without knowing how to write a check, how to, do their taxes. But it feels like you guys are pushing the wave of the transition where states are changing, but they don't know exactly how to, and they have a
Right.
good place for guidance. It's
Right. And
very,
that's where our partners, like I said, we're partnered with over 100 organizations around the country. And these partners really, again, are our parents' best friends. They are school districts' best friends because they are getting the resources to the schools that are necessary. So
yeah.
that's important. And along with the professional development too, which is another thing that we provide. We have a professional development program. It's called Financial Foundations for Educators, and it's a 4 module kind of exposure to the most current topics in financial literacy. It doesn't teach people how to teach financial literacy. It just enhances their own knowledge of financial literacy. And this is something that actually anybody can do. It's free on our website. It's your own pace. At the end of each module, there's um, an assessment that you can take. There's a certificate that you can earn by passing. And so we encourage parents, we encourage adult learners, we encourage teachers, everybody to take a look at that because it's constantly being updated. It's got really current information. And we love the confidence that it gives people to share, again, what is so important about financial literacy.
Yeah. And a lot of adults, I mean, you can never stop gaining more information on it. And
Exactly.
we promote because we're big in homeschooling. I don't know if Beth has told you that, but we promote the parents learning it with their kid compared to
Yep.
learning like how to teach it, but like
Yes.
actually learning and growing themselves so that they can learn together. Have you guys done anything in the homeschooling space?
We again we try to make our clearinghouse available, which I mentioned before, which is where you
Yeah.
can research. And again, what's great about the clearinghouse is whether it's a topic, whether it's an age level, whether it's a type of resource, you can search specifically for any of those things in that clearinghouse. And so where we haven't necessarily reached out to any homeschool organizations or things that are out there,
It is
we
available though to
yeah,
parents.
yep, everything is available. You can just go to jumpstart.org, and if you look under our education tab, you'll be able to find access to all those things.
Okay, awesome. Let's
And of
see.
course, the other thing too that I always like to say is that the clearinghouse is one of my teammates' kind of major roles, but
Mhm.
my role is the director of teacher support and teacher engagement and support. And so if anybody gets stuck on anything with the website or they're looking for something, they can reach out to me and I'm more than happy to help as well.
Okay,
That's
so
great.
if um let's say a mom, a parent was
Mhm.
teaching or doing homeschooling, would they be able to reach out to you as well? Like, would you consider them a teacher or
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
what?
Yeah.
That is
Yep. Yep.
okay. Let's see. Let me see. So, we teach a lot. We're like one of our four pillars is finances, and we we try to teach that a lot. Would you say to incorporate Jumpstart, the best thing would be is to direct people to the coalition, or is there one in specific that you would recommend for a more structured from A to B type curriculum where it almost feels like this is not just something we can add to it, but it's a whole financial education?
Right. We have several partners that do provide full-on curriculums.
Okay.
Some of those do say that, when you register as a teacher. Now, I believe that if you are a homeschool teacher,
Hmm.
homeschool educator, that you still are going to be able to qualify to get access to those resources. But again, through our clearinghouse, you would find some of those resources and the ability to find those partners as well.
That's great.
Great. So yeah, I mean, are you happy with the country, the education system? Do you see them making positive adjustments? And do you think we're on the right track to getting kids where they can graduate and know how to write a check, understand exactly how much they're going to spend? Do you think the country as a whole is on the right track?
I think with the legislation and the graduation requirements, I think that is a great, I'm going to say first start, because I
Okay.
think that once you start holding districts accountable to make sure that these lessons are being learned, I think that really is important. But again, we're at the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
We really, truly, we want to change lives. We want to change family trees. Now, I'll share this one with you because this was probably one of the most unbelievable things that I had as a teacher of personal finance. I was talking about investing with
Mhm.
students, and the bell rang. Everybody got up, left, and there was one student sitting in the classroom. And I asked her, "Says everything okay?" And she says, "Mr. Christ, I want you to know, I want to say thank you." And I said, "Well, thank you, for what?" She says, "You don't understand." She says, "I have watched my parents ever since I can remember living paycheck to paycheck.
Mm.
Every argument I've heard between my parents was about money." She said, "I've got the skills now that I don't have to live a life like that." Said, "You've actually changed my family tree."
Yeah.
And that was, I mean, I still get a little choked up when I tell that story, but that really is what it's going to be about, is those
That's
family trees are going to be changed.
Yeah, because I mean, they know that it's just not taught to them. It's their kids are graduating and they know they're kind of they expect to make the mistakes that they're about to make because they have no information on it. They know they're gonna spend too much at a store. They're not gonna be spending below their means because they don't even understand it. So I
Right.
feel like I can't even imagine the influence you've had in that school, all those kids.
I
That
Yeah,
is
and what I love too is the fact that this is a topic it's not controversial.
no.
This is common sense. And
Hmm.
so to get parents involved, this is I think one of the easiest topics to get parents on board with, because it's not like you're teaching some secret behind the way of doing things. This is the way that everybody is supposed to live. It's how people are going to succeed.
Yeah.
And I think with our foundations program, if parents go through that and they kind of get a refresher of what's up to date and what's current with personal finance, and then they're sharing that with their child,
Hmm.
it's kind of what you said before. The parents are learning it, and those parents now are equipped to show their children even more about what's current, and that again just makes it a great meld for everybody.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's impossible to not look at it. And when they're going through your resource or something you guys provide, they're going to be like, wow, if I was taught this just a little bit earlier, then they're going to grab a mistake that they made. I'm like, I might have been able to avoid that. And
Exactly.
it's very clear it needs to be taught. So definitely hope to see it keep getting pushed forward. What would be, since you as a teacher, you taught the financial aspect, what would be the biggest things you learned about, or your favorite things to teach? Would it be like spending below your means, investing?
Yeah. I, I think one of the first units that I covered, and one of the big things that is a push right now is what we call behavioral finance, which is understanding why you make the decisions you make.
Mhm.
How have you been influenced, up to this point in your life? What has made you or created the situation for you to make the decisions that you make? And I think that really is an important thing to understand first and foremost before anything else. Um, but then again, with the young students, like when we do our teen teach-ins, we do a lot about um, opportunity cost. What do you give up when you make a decision? What kind of things are you putting, are you taking off the table because you chose to buy this particular thing right now? Needs and wants. Even with my high schoolers, when I would teach them, some still didn't have a good grasp on needs and wants. And so
Right.
that's an important distinction to know that difference. Um, but then as they got more and more comfortable with it, just your daily finances, your budgeting. And once you have a handle on that daily budgeting that you're going to do, then you can really start looking to the future. And that's when the investing part, we had um, I've had so many students, and we would always ask the question, how many of you think that you can be a millionaire by the time you retire? Now, I'm not sure where you're located, but are you familiar with Culver's restaurant?
Yeah, they have them. I'm in
Culver's
West
fast food.
Florida,
So
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 yeah,
Culver's started in my community. And
really.
so Craig Culver, his daughters were all students of mine. Craig was he and his parents were friends with my parents. And actually, one of my nephews is married to one of Craig's daughters, but that's another story. But so we're sitting in class, and I had somebody in to talk about investing with my students. And the person asked, said, how many of you think that you can be a millionaire by the time you retire? And there was one hand that went up in the back of the class, and it was Craig Culver's daughter. And he said, yeah, you're probably going to be okay.
Yeah,
But to
she.
get kids by the end of that investing lesson to realize that it's doable. And it's
Hmm.
doable by starting early and putting a small amount of money away now. And um, those again are just those aha moments that are so cool about financial literacy.
Yeah, that's the biggest points I remember in school were the times when it was something along those topics, whether it was compound interest, like the first time learning it, it just
Yeah,
sticks with you. And you're like,
yes.
it's a
Yeah.
topic that you know you're not being taught a lot, and it's needed. It's
Yeah.
needed in education. Um, that's fine. Yeah. I mean, so what we do is kind of to that point. So obviously, um, the girl, she's in good hands financially already. But if something was to happen, she has that experience. Her dad has that experience where he'll probably be able to turn it over, make smart decisions, and be able to grow his wealth again and definitely help her in making smart decisions. So that's what we try to facilitate is that connection of even if you start at zero, the knowledge that you have is worth more than just if someone was to hand someone
Mhm. Exactly.
$1 million and they have no knowledge on the topic, they're going to lose it compared to it grow itself.
Right.
Um, and that's amazing. And I saw on Jumpstart's website they had a really cool thing where you can put it's what do you expect to spend, and it kind of lays out exactly where if you're going to live with your parents, if
Yeah.
you plan to have Netflix, all these different things. And as you're putting it in there, I think it definitely gives the kids the idea of, whoa, this does start to add up, and then it lays it out nicely.
Yeah. That's, one of the things that a lot of people kind of misunderstand, I think, about Jumpstart. They think that we provide all these resources. Again, most of the resources that we have are our partner resources. But what you were just mentioning now is something called Reality Check. And that
Yeah.
is one of the tools that we have created. And it's one of the things that I oversee. And we just updated that last year. And it's a great, in a classroom, it's a great literally 20-minute activity. And it gives a student a real good idea of, what kind of money am I going to have to make to live the life that I want to live when I'm on my own. So
Yeah,
it's a really, I think it's a fun tool.
that's awesome. I don't want to take up too much of your time. Is there any questions that I haven't asked you or about Jumpstart that you would like to
Um,
mention and just put out there for parents that are watching this?
Well, I think I just want to reiterate the fact that, again, a lot of what we have available is free.
Yeah.
And it's, through our website. And so, whether you're a classroom teacher, a homeschool teacher, there's so many great resources out there. And those resources, again, so many of them are free. And
Hmm.
you really um, have access to a lot of really good things. But also the fact that that's what we're here for. We want to make sure that people know where to find those resources. And so that's what I want to be available for. And so if they've got questions, please reach out to me and I will do my best to get that information as quick as I can.
Yeah, that is awesome. Because as soon as you think about learning it or teaching it, it's a big open void with Google, and you guys concise it down, put it in a well thought out manner for
Yeah.
these people. That is awesome. I mean, that's pretty much, I think that was great. I don't have anything else, but if there's anything you want to add,
Yeah, like I said, I appreciate this, and I think that this is an area that um, we really want to be more active in. We have great respect for parents who are taking on the education of their children, and we again just want to provide whatever we can to help get them the information that they need.
that is awesome. I think a lot of homeschool families are kind of, they're more already aware of how much they need to teach it. And if they can find you guys, I think it would be a nice area where you guys can add to your tool belt of teachers, principals, and then also having that at home education because they do have a lot more ability to customize the
Yep.
education and put focus on it. But what you guys are doing is awesome. And I really did. I enjoyed reading backgrounds or the background on you. It seemed like you are a great teacher and have definitely helped a lot of families and young kids. It's cool.
This was, again, I love the classroom and I could have kept doing it. But this was an opportunity to just be able to share even more with other teachers. I mean, it's great to have teacher friends all around the country.
Yeah.
We have a great network that talk regularly and putting on that conference for educators every year as well, and bringing people to these great locations and being able to treat them like professionals. It's really a great thing to be a part of.
What teacher do you think is the like what I guess but what teacher is not the right way to say it, but what subject is the best one to incorporate this in? Could it be any of them, or do you like a certain one like
Yeah.
mathematics?
I mean, it really could be any because there are ways, to do it in math. I was a social studies teacher, so I had a background in econ, and so it fit well for me. Um,
Hmm.
so I don't know if there's a perfect place. The one thing that does end up happening is that one person tends to kind of be on a little bit of an island. And so
Hmm.
where you got all your math teachers that can talk together, all of your English teachers that can talk together, a lot of times that personal finance teacher doesn't have a whole lot of other people to talk with, which is why a national organization like us can help put them, into contact with colleagues from all over the country. And we take great pride in that.
Yeah. Because I mean, like you say, you came from being that teacher that you saw exactly what Jumpstart provides and
Right.
what they're doing, and it's a good resource to have for other teachers.
Yeah.
Miss Beth, is there anything you want to say?
I just wanted to say, I graduated with my bachelor's in August in communications, and storytelling was a huge proponent of what I learned. So I really appreciate that you emphasize that. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I can't
it's
emphasize
wonderful.
it enough. It really, I think, makes all the difference in the world. Um, and especially for a topic like this,
Oh,
because
yeah.
young people learn from example,
Hmm.
and as long as you're not, you can't be embarrassed if you've made a mistake. own the mistake, share the
That's
mistake,
right.
and it's going to prevent it from happening to somebody else.
That's right. And it connects the logical side and reasoning with the emotional side, and that's so important. I really,
Very,
really like that you do that.
yeah, very true.
Yeah, that's all I have, Jay.
Nice. No, that's perfect. All right, Mr. Joel, I don't want to take up too much of your time.
I really appreciated the opportunity to do this. I've been looking forward to this since we first chatted. So I hope that that what I provided you with was what you were looking for. And again, I'm hoping that this can create a partnership between us two.
Definitely. No, I think what you guys are providing is what a lot of our families are looking for. A
Yeah.
lot. They just there's no nothing else really like what you're doing where it just simplifies it for them.
Yeah.
They're busy just like other teachers, like students are, and it just provides them a simple solution where they can find trusted partners to find exactly what they're looking for.
Yeah.
I think a lot of our parents are going to be very happy to to hear this and to go look into it and
Excellent.
see what they can find. All right, I'm going to end it. Thank you very much
Oh,
for
you're very welcome.
joining us, and I definitely hope we can continue talking and
Yeah,
continue working together.
I hope so too.
All right,
All
Thank you.
take care.
right. Thank you.